Welcome to Transcending the Rabbit Hole. I'm Brandy Anderson. I'm a spiritual director and Jungian coach on an ever-winding contemplative path of becoming. I'm the author of Through the Veil, A Glimpse into the Afterlife, and co-host of Spectral Symposium podcast. I'm joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Annelise and Parker Bess. Annelise is a singer, songwriter, sound healer, and spiritual influencer dedicated to raising human consciousness as she shares her awakening journey on TikTok. Parker is a true knowledge seeker and truth bringer in the realm of esoteric wisdom. Parker has a solid understanding of metaphysical concepts with expertise in the shadowy corridors of secret societies, occult knowledge, and ancient aliens and ufology. We invite you to pry open your third eye and journey with us through the cosmic rabbit hole as we alchemize esoteric insights in a quest for ultimate truth.
Falling down the rabbit hole again.
Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. We are excited to discuss what it means to awaken out of the matrix. We'll be diving into the implications of living in a matrix world and what that means for us collectively and individually. This episode will set the tone for future episodes by unraveling and explaining the matrix and spiritual awakening in a lucid way. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Hello, Annelise and Parker. It's a privilege to be transcending the rabbit hole with you guys.
Hey, Brandy, how's it going?
Hey.
Hey, Brandy, so glad to be here.
Very glad to be here.
Yes, it's exciting. Getting into the Matrix. Most of our listeners probably know what the Matrix is, but for those who don't, we will explain what the Matrix is. So do one of you guys want to jump in?
Systems have been in place for a long time to just keep people in their place and doing what they've been doing without looking outside of the system or looking outside of their worldview of what's been told to them as that's what it is, and this is life, and this is what you're supposed to do. And I think a lot of people get trapped in the matrix system of 9 to 5 work, and you live to watch a football game on Saturday and rest on Sunday and start it all back over again. You know, I know there's plenty of people, and it just keeps people from really experiencing their true selves. And I know we'll get deeper into what it actually is, but that's what I think the premise of it is.
Yeah, 100%. That was well said, because the systems of the world, it's the kind of thing that it's the water that we're swimming in and we're not even aware of. And so it's like this matrix or web, interconnected web of concepts and ideologies and, everything that keeps us in conformity. And to some degree, it's needed, because you can't have a civilization or civilized people without some conformity. People need to behave a certain way or there would be mass chaos, obviously. But at some point it becomes where people are just kept in submission,
Right.
In control. And we get to a point where we don't even question it. It's just like we've been so conditioned that we just do the things that we do on autopilot. And and the powers that be they just keep churning things along. And like you were saying, the systems, there are so many systems, like the religious system, political system, pharmaceutical, medical industry, all of that military complex, all of it. And all of that together, it just really creates a situation where people, they don't even know it, but they are slaves to the system.
Yeah, it's just a big hamster wheel. And, everybody thinks this is normal, but that's your point of view. That's your life, is running on the hamster wheel until you get off and you look around and you see everything else that's around. That's a good example of a system for the most part, until you can remove yourself and just see everything for what it is.
Well, so many people are anxious and depressed in this country. They don't realize it, but it's keeping people separated from their true self, like you said, Parker, and just slaves to that system. And then we wonder why we're burning out and we have high levels of depression and anxiety in this country.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 2 movies that really helped me understand are obviously The Matrix, but also the Jim Carrey movie. Oh, Parker, what's it called? Oh my gosh.
The Truman Show.
Is it
The Truman Show?
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
The Truman Show. That one is spot on. When I watched that after an awakening to really getting that I've been lied to about most everything my whole life, it just floored me. floored me because I had seen it before, but from a different lens.
Yeah.
And watching it as somebody who is putting in the effort to escape the matrix or escape the just the duality mindset, that movie hits. It really does. And
Yeah.
for anybody who's maybe in the 60s plus age range who is like, what are you even talking about? I think watching The Matrix would be really helpful because that paints a picture of what do we even mean? You know, what do you mean systems are lying to us? What do you mean this isn't reality? Another person who really helped put it into perspective for me is there's a guy on YouTube named John St. Julian, and he has a couple videos called like How to Escape the Matrix. And it was those videos that started my entire awakening, really. And it started with turning off the TV, like being done with TV.
Yes, big one.
After a few months being done with TV, like we didn't watch any TV. If we watched TV, it was YouTube. It was learning. It was not for entertainment. It was about things that we were really interested in. A few months later, my life just began to change. Like just turning off the television will help you step out of the matrix. It's amazing.
Yeah, you don't have the mass programming of commercials or news, or a system driving a narrative that it influences your mind to believe a certain way. Like you have somebody on the news saying China's going to attack us, China's going to attack, and then you have somebody on the other side of the news saying something else crazy. It's a big system that controls people, and it's like that for the religious system with this is the only way to heaven, and if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah, they find ways to control your soul essence so that you never discover who you are and what you're really here for. They keep you completely immersed in the program so that you never recognize your own power and the own voice of God within. Yeah. And it's once you start to pull away from it, you start to hear that voice that many of us call God, Holy Spirit, whatever language you like to use. You really start to hear it when you start just pulling out the plugs from every system, whether it's school, television, media, work, politics, all of it. It's all just, it's like the Truman Show, And when you wake up and realize you're in the Truman Show, it's upsetting at first, but then your life can really start to blast off. And it's been a gift, at least for me, to wake up to that.
It's hard for people to wake up, to just change somebody's paradigm of their whole world. To realize that it's hard for certain people, for sure, I would say.
Yeah. And I love that you guys use the word program. You used it, Annelise, and so did you, Parker, because that's what television is. I mean, initially, it was called programming.
Yeah,
right. You're watching your programs. And so it's because you are being programmed to think a certain way. Of course, the news is just fear mongering, but it's all just propaganda. Whether you're watching movies, whatever you're entertaining yourself with. And that's a lot of people would go, oh, well, it's just entertainment. I'm not, it's not shaping my worldview. It's just entertainment. But we cannot be separated out of what we are ingesting. And so like the things that we are thinking about, every thought initially, can become a reality if we marinate in it. And so whatever you're feeding into yourself continually, whether it be news or Hollywood movies or whatever, there's a certain angle, there's a certain programming, conditioning. And also I wanted to point out, Annelise used the word dualistic or dualism. And so when we say dualism, what we mean is binary thinking, us versus them, in versus out. It's that judging, labeling, dividing mind. And that's what the Matrix is all about. It keeps people divided, separated, and very exclusionary in their thinking. And so as long as we are thinking in those terms, we never realize our oneness with the others. We never truly step into loving others, because you cannot love others as yourself, as Jesus tells us we should do, if we see ourselves as separate and superior from others.
Exactly.
So
divide and conquer.
Right.
Just for our listeners, why do you think there even is a matrix? Why the people at the top? How did this come about? Why is it even here? What is it doing? What's the purpose? Why?
Sure. Initially, I think maybe it developed in the initial early stages, probably for good reason. Because like I said, in order to be colonized, civilized, people have to behave in a certain way. There have to be certain rules for society to follow. to keep people in line. And when I say in line, I don't mean in conformity, but just what is socially acceptable in that sense. Just things as simple as like wearing clothes or how people should dress or how you eat your food. Because if you look at all these different cultures, what's acceptable, whether it be chopsticks, utensils, or forks, and other, but some people would just use their hands, you know. So I think it started out as a good thing, just to give people some sort of
structure
I don't know,
or something.
Yeah, structure or context in how to live their lives. But as with anything, that's what humans do. They they get out of balance with things. And the people at the top, like you were saying, Parker, the people, you know, inevitably people are going to rise in power. You know, it's like Israel. They just wanted a king. They, you know, they just had to have that king. And so when we do that, we create, you know, a situation where the power is out of balance. And then we're looking to an external other power system, person in power to make decisions, to protect us, to lead us. And when that happens, then of course the abuse of power. And so that's how the matrix, I would say, became corrupted. So I don't necessarily think the systems in and of themselves are bad. I think that humans corrupt these systems. Yeah.
Right. And I'll also add at the top, like you said, people rise to power and people will do crazy things to rise to power. I mean, you can look at Hollywood, you can look at anything like that. And with that being said, there are negative entities. There are demons or whatever you really want to call them, lower density beings or anything like that. And when you have those two things, it's easy for corruption to set in and the will of lower density beings or demons to creep into those systems. And when that happens, it's just kind of a trickle down effect from the top person being corrupt to you're going to do this. And if you don't, you're out, and they'll just get their people in and get their people in. And soon enough, it just becomes normal after years and years and years, you know? So people want to look at like religion in the same context. Like you go to a Baptist church, that's fine. That's great. But that Baptist church, its origination is from the Roman Catholic Church. That's where the first church came from. The Baptist church could just be normal now, but it started at the very beginning of that system.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up the spiritual component behind it, because in my view, everything is spiritual. And so we can't escape the fact that we have a spiritual team around us at all times. What I call a team of light. But admittedly, it's not light for everyone. Sort of whatever level of consciousness, our inner atmosphere, whatever we cultivate in that regard, it determines what our spiritual team is like. And so like you were saying, Parker, if people are on a power trip and they're trying to manipulate outcomes and control people and grasp for power and fame and fortune, you know, when we do those things, then we cultivate obviously an inner atmosphere of, you know, entropy, you know, where we kind of close in on ourselves, but also spiritually, the spiritual component that surrounds us, the swirling in the ether around us would be dark and, you know, given to those same compulsions. And so it's solidified and strengthened. So, yeah, there is, you know, the Bible talks about principalities and powers in the air. There really are powers in the air that grip people, and it can be really hard because even people who they're caught in these compulsions. So even if they might want to be freed from it, it's almost like
Get addicted to it.
In the in some of these secret society, dark, hidden groups, they do rituals. They do all kinds of things that help bring about negative entities. And when that happens, they don't just do that for no reason. Like the negative entities, you know, they give them certain things. They give them power to do what they're doing, or they give them easiness to do what they need them to do. You know, it could get pretty dark, you know, in the system. Some of the systems really did go that way. And well, like I said in the first episode, I am an ex-Mason. I got to be a Mason a couple of years ago. I learned all of their handshakes, anything that I would really need to know to hear somebody talk about this kind of Mason stuff and know that they were telling the truth. And, you know, I joined a group of people like me, like truth seekers, and we all just kind of collaborated our information together. And all the stuff that we were able to pull together just from webs of all the heads of CEOs and pretty much like 75% of our our Congress in general. Maybe not from this past election or anything, because so many shakeups have happened, but from here to years past, there's been tons of Masons within the Congress, CEOs, all kinds of just craziness that leads to just a unified system within itself of Masonry. And within Masonry, at the very top levels, they will not tell you this in the first 3 degrees, which is considered the Blue Lodge. But at the very top, their goals are to basically control the masses and, bring about Freemasonry as the way of life. And like we're talking about with systems, all that is in place too with that kind of stuff. It's kind of a trickle-down effect. That's why they say when you're being recruited by a Mason, we have connections. If you need a certain job, you being a Mason is going to help you get that job.
The systems you're talking about, like religious, political, economic, educational, and so on, I would say that was started by, I don't know if we're too early in the game to jump into this, but entities from our ancient origins that things trickle down, that we can get into that. But I think that's been here a long time. Just anything to feed our 5 senses into something that will suck out our energy, to feed a darker realm so that we don't have the energy to feed a realm of light, and to bring about change and ascension of mankind. And,
Right.
I think from the from the surface, everything looks good. We need churches, we need politics, we need schools, right? But the powers that be use it to program us, to extract our energy, to feed off our energy, to keep us dumbed down, to keep us unaware of any of the power that we actually have. And once you figure out the power you actually have, you're shunned from society and called, weirdo, wacko, whatever. It's a whole thing. And I didn't even know it was a whole thing until a couple of years ago. I was happy in my matrix. And to find out that there even was a matrix was shocking. But, for me, y'all have heard a little bit of my story. That religious matrix was the hardest one to come down, because I thought, oh yeah, there's a matrix, but it's not my religion. It's everything but that. So that's been, and it is ongoingly, my battle with my programming is remember, that's a system. That's a system that was made by man, not Jesus. That's a system that was made for control and not good things if you go back and look at how it was built. And that's an ongoing deprogramming for me. Yeah.
And to piggyback off the secret society thing, what Annelise just said, that's pretty much the basis of what all the secret societies are. They know that there's a matrix system, and they know how to influence the universal laws while they keep everybody else as quote unquote sheep, or just people who just follow what they're told and just are programmed to the max. And they know that, and they know how to manipulate it, and the universal laws will clear. I mean, it outlines how to manifest things in this world, how to get what you want. And the universe is a source that's not like, I'm not going to answer you because
it
you're
always
bad.
says yes. Always says yes. Whatever you put out, the answer is yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when you can install fear and turmoil within the mass population, I mean, the collective goes down, and you're able to control it, and they know that.
Yeah, they're working the system.
And that's exactly.
And that's the thing is, you have to be aware of it. You have to awaken out of it to some degree to be able to manipulate the system. And I was reminded as you were speaking of the raw material, is the law of one. And the whole premise of that is that we either graduate into we're in the third density, 3D reality, this world of form that we're in is 3D. And the only way we're going to graduate into like a fourth density situation, and, that's what's next. And then after that would be fifth density. So, I mean, it's a gradual progression. But the only way to graduate into fourth density is to either become a negative or a positive polarity being enough to graduate. In other words, you have to awaken enough. If you remain asleep and you're just caught in this matrix and you're just punching the clock and you're just doing life as usual and you never wake up, then buckle up. You are going to repeat this third density, which is reincarnate back into until you do awaken, because all of life is designed to awaken us. Now, positive polarity people, once they go into that positive polarity and they graduate, then obviously they're pressing into love and light. That's what it means to be a positive polarity being. But there are negative polarity beings who graduate into that fourth density, and the only way they can do it is to be awake, fully aware and conscious, and choosing evil. Like conscious, it's a conscious choice. I mean, a lot of people who are asleep do evil. That's not the same. I mean, because they're asleep to it. They're just robots. They're just in this matrix. It's the people who have awakened and are choosing the evil. Those people are the negative polarity people that graduate, that are pulling the strings, that are in the power positions. And like Parker was saying, they are working the system. They know what they are doing, and they're able to manipulate things to get the outcome that they desire while keeping people pushed down and asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I've seen people who are aware that there's a matrix and they want to wake up from it. They want to get out of it, but their comments are, but how? How, if I have to work my 9 to 5, I have to make money, I have to feed my family, how can I get out? And there's, I'm sure if anyone's listening to this, they might know this name, Bashar, Bashar says you act on your highest passion to the best of your ability without caring what the outcome will be. That will bring about that true change in your life to get out of that false program, or as Jesus, called it, there's just the fallen world. Maybe we could discuss like, how do you get out of the matrix if you still have to work your 9 to 5? I mean, can you, I guess, maybe focus on your passions and see what money can come from there? Like, how do we help people find ways out? Because that's been the most frequent kind of comment I've seen in this realm. Like, okay, well, I know this exists. I'm not completely asleep, but I have to pay bills.
I think it's just everybody's own journey, to be honest. It's not really an easy way out. So, if it was, we would all be there.
It's kind of it's one of those things where I don't think there is one particular, here is a formula for getting out of the matrix,
right.
Because everybody's situation is subjective, like you're saying, Parker. But I do think it's important to note that Jesus was in the world, not of the world. So, it's not that we leave, we can't escape the matrix in the sense that like the fish can't come out of the water. Like you're in it. And in order to remove yourself, you would become useless. I mean, you need to be in the world to make a difference in the world, right? But the thing is that you need to wake up while you're in it. It's like being awake in the dream. It's like lucid dreaming. So it's like, you work your 9 to 5 if you need to make money. That's the system you're living in. You have bills to pay. You need a house. You're in this 3D reality where you require food and you require shelter. And so these basic needs are important. So it's not that you just opt out and quit going to work or, live under a bridge or whatever. You continue to do those things, but do them mindfully, consciously, become aware so that you're not just doing it on autopilot. And then you begin to make better decisions. Maybe you make some choices where, I don't know, maybe you're working in a place where you feel like you're really underneath it. Like you can't express yourself. It's sucking the life out of you, whatever. Well, when you wake up to that, then you can make some choices that maybe guide you out of that. So it's a gradual awakening, to be sure. Nobody, that I'm aware of, people don't generally just wake up all of a sudden to everything. So just become more and more aware. And as you do, make choices that, that bring you into your highest life path. What sparks joy in your heart? What is it that you want to be doing? How can you, create in this world in a way that gives you life.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's where your purpose is hidden. And I think old Bashar had that one right.
And like Annelise said, one of the biggest things I would say to awakening is to turn the mainstream TV off, turn the Netflix
Oh,
off.
yeah.
You know, if you want to watch something, study something on YouTube, or really Gaia has the channel
Well, yeah.
Gaia. It has tons of good stuff on it. So I mean, if you really want to dive into spiritual stuff, that's where you probably should go, and then YouTube. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just doing little things here and there and cutting the TV off, maybe stepping out of the bar scene, all kinds of things that will drain your energy down or make you not high vibrational.
Yeah.
That will help you.
I
Yeah,
like that
maybe.
analogy you made of the fish too, because
Yeah.
once the fish becomes aware of the water, now it can
Yeah.
make some waves. Once the
Yeah.
fish knows it's even in
Yeah.
water, okay, now
Yeah.
I can manipulate the water for my benefit and for the benefit of others versus just floundering in the water and you don't even know you're in water. You can't
Right.
make anything happen.
Yeah.
And I think we are co-creators here
Yeah.
with the divine. We are here to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be the, you know, God in action. But you're told, no, you're not. You're supposed to be in this little system and praise some external idea of a deity and give all your power away and all your money away and all
Yeah.
Yeah.
your awareness away. I think pulling away from anything that takes your awareness is a great first step too. Like we've said, pull away from TV. For me, it was even, at least temporarily, we've pulled our kids out of school so that we can homeschool and teach them things that the system won't talk about. Now, this isn't ideal for everybody and it doesn't work for everybody, but it's just, I'm giving an example, I guess, of some decisions I know that have helped us on our journey.
A lot of people are doing that too,
Yeah.
or starting to do that.
Yeah. I think
Yes.
just anything, whether it's for you, for your children, take their awareness out of the systems that drain their awareness for the system's benefit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like what you said, Annelise, about the media, watching TV, because that was a huge one for me to just stop. For one thing, it just consumes so much of your time because you're just sitting in front of an idiot box, just staring at this, like if you're watching sitcoms or something on loop. And of course, it's different if you're watching like documentaries or things where you're actually learning something. And I will say that oftentimes there are a lot of movies that are really inspiring, and they have
Yeah.
like a great message. So I'm not saying that we should just entirely never watch anything or whatever, but it's about being conscious with whatever we do watch or whatever we do engage in. And so for me, it's always the litmus test is, can I remain present and feel a sense of expansion in it? Or does it instead pull me out of the present moment into my thoughts, whether I'm being pulled into the future where there's nothing but anxiety, or pulled into the past where there's nothing but regret? Is it constricting me? So there's always this sense of this inner expansion or inner constriction with everything that we engage in, because everything is energy. We are energy. Everything around us is energy. So if you can learn to kind of tap into that energy within you, that chi energy as it's flowing, and see, is this giving me life right now, or is this taking life away from me in this moment? And so I don't watch the news because it sucks the life out of me. I can feel that inner constriction. It starts to make me feel anxious. Maybe I feel some anger when I hear certain
Yeah.
things. And I just don't engage. Why subject yourself to that? And it's going to pull you into your thinking mind, that binary labeling, judging. And see, that's how the whole matrix is designed, to keep us lost in thought, because if we're lost in thought, we can't be effective in the present moment.
Well, yeah, that's like CNN and Fox. They're two of the same news, and they're rivals, and they supposedly have different news somehow. And it's just a whole nother system of Fox people don't like CNN, CNN don't like Fox people, and
Yeah, it's just
because of
further
what they're
dividing
told.
people.
Exactly, they're
Yeah.
told to not like them. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, and that's the thing too, I've noticed, and I know we're not particularly going into just Christianity here or whatever, but there's something that I've noticed about people who deconstruct out of religion. A lot of people leave that conservative, fundamentalist, evangelical type faith, and they end up in a more progressive place, like progressive Christianity. And it's a
Yeah.
very liberal place to be, but it's still very dualistic. And so while you may have changed your views and you're way more liberal in your thinking, and you feel like, hey, I'm being more inclusive because, I'm not stuffy like these conservatives over here, Still and yet, though, it's very dualistic. It's very us versus them. It's very judging and vitriolic, and that type of attitude. You're never going to bring people into your way of thinking as long as you are in that. As long as you're putting out that energy, regardless of the words that come out of your mouth, whatever that energy behind your words, that's what people feel. And they're either going to be invited into your space or they're going to be repelled. And so if you really want unity, if you really want to come together and experience like a oneness, and really it's about love. I mean, love is always the answer to every question. And so can you cultivate love in every moment? How loving can you be? That's really the question. And so if we are labeling and dividing, if we are othering people, if we are dismissing them into a category where we don't have to deal with them in an intelligent way anymore, and that's what happens, it's still very dualistic. And it's, so you haven't really gotten anywhere. Yeah, good for you. You unplugged from, from mainstream evangelical Christianity, but you are still in the system. You just went from, you traded one external authority for another. Yeah. So it's time for people to unplug from all of that, like Jesus did. He was able to, he was in that culture. I mean, he didn't remove himself. He was in the religious system. He was in the political system. He was a part of society of his day, but he spoke into it. He spoke truth with love into it. And of course it got him crucified because people don't like that. Yeah. But he didn't exclude people. Everyone was welcome in his space. Yeah.
Definitely. Say somebody who's listening to this podcast right now, who is just now learning about the Matrix. When you kind of figure out what the Matrix is, I really want you to go watch the movie The Matrix and try to watch that movie not through this is fun to watch, but like through I'm Neo and this is the surrounding area. Like this is the surroundings of the world and the systems. And that movie will literally break down for you exactly what the Matrix is and what's happening in each level. As long as you can watch it that way, I mean, it's a great eye-opener for understanding just what this world is, really. I mean, what the Matrix is.
Yeah. And I think, we didn't talk about this already, but how do we get in this matrix? And it's really, we are born into it. Yeah. The conditioning begins in childhood. I think by the time we're 7 or 8, something like that, we've already constructed that ego persona, and it helps us navigate the world. So it's there for a purpose. It keeps us out of trouble. It keeps us safe in our worlds. But, the education system, as kids, we plug in, we're being sent to school, being educated, but really and truly, it's just we're being programmed because the education system is not teaching people how to think. It's teaching them what to think. And so there again, you're just a robot in the system. And for me, for many years, I love to read and learn. That's just kind of, I love to read and consume knowledge. And so I have to really, that's my task, is to get out of my head and to be more present and embodied in the moment and not conceptualizing. But for me, school was always, an impediment to actual learning and growth. Where I would be interested in entertaining various ideas and, just curious about all kinds of things. But it was you have to conform. You have to sit in the desk for this many minutes, and then you can't do this and you must do that. All of this structure in a way that is stifling, and it doesn't really serve to not truly liberate people into their calling. Just, and if you, depending on what you go to school for, like let's just say you go to medical school, well, you're being programmed. You're going to do medicine the way they tell you to do medicine. And ultimately, if you got into it because you want to heal people, well, buckle up because
exactly.
You might have a rude awakening when you have to play by the system's rules or you don't get to play at all.
Yeah, that's a great example for sure. And I always think about this because fluoride is so bad for you. Everybody listening to this, fluoride is so bad.
Throw out your toothpaste.
So when you go to the dentist and they say, "Do you want me to coat your teeth in fluoride?" Say no. No. Because you will be back at the dentist getting all kinds of other stuff if you do. I'm telling you right now, that's a big scam. But dentists don't.
They're told that's what you do.
Yeah,
because it calcifies the pineal gland, which is the seat of your consciousness, which don't even get me started.
And it eats through cement if it's left there unconcentrated or concentrated on.
Parker getting riled up about fluoride. I took our son to the dentist the other day, and they stopped and said, may we give him fluoride on his teeth? And I know what I know about fluoride, but I'm also like, well, he's 3. I don't want to mess up his teeth. Let me make sure, because my programming is deep,
Yeah.
And I called Parker and I'm like, fluoride on the teeth. He said, no. I hung up the phone and said, no, not today. And they just look at me like, okay, you're crazy, but whatever. But it's just, you have to make those decisions once you do wake up, and you're going to get looked at like you're crazy, and you're going to get told you're crazy, and your church friends are going to tell you you're wayward, and you don't know what you're doing. And once it's like that Plato's allegory of the cave, which I've talked about on my TikTok, and it's where the guy walks out of the cave, he sees there's a whole world outside of the cave. He runs back in to tell all the friends chained up, hey guys, get out here. Yeah. We've been fooled. This cave is not all there is. Come out. And they say, oh, you're crazy. What have you gotten into now? Get back in here. Get back in the cave. And that is life now since waking up. And there's very few people I meet who I can truly connect with anymore, which might kind of lead into the pitfalls of awakening. Yeah. It is not all sunshine and roses at all. It's beautifully tragic and wonderful. It's just, it's quite the journey. And I don't think it ever ends. I don't think you just awaken and then you're awake. I think it's always, like you say, a process of becoming.
Yeah. And it's not an adding to. That's another thing. A lot of times people think of spiritual awakening as you're adding spirituality, or you're adding certain practices, or I don't know, adding things, but it's not. It's really, it's an unlearning. It's not, you don't learn new things. You have to unlearn all of the things that have kept you in that box. And so it is very much a gradual process, because it would be too much to bear if you had to unlearn everything like in a sudden, instantaneous kind of moment. I don't think that's even possible. Our psyche couldn't handle that. Either. And that's why, people who do psychedelics for an awakening, to expand their minds and awaken or whatever, it can, if you're not ready for it, it can cause psychosis. Yeah. Because it can be too much at once. People can, be awakened, jolted in a sense that they're not ready for. Your psyche has to be ready for that. I think that life gives us what we need when we need it. And so all of life is designed to awaken us. I say that all the time, and it really is true. If we would just begin to become mindful, and really when I say mindful, I mean get out of your thoughts, develop a practice of meditation or contemplative prayer or whatever your thing is. Get in nature and just breathe. Mm-hmm. Yes. Do Tai Chi. I love Tai Chi. Whatever it is that can get you out of that thinking mind that's just perpetually generating out thoughts, that narrative that's just spinning on loop. If you can just quiet that, or just kind of separate yourself from it, and that will give you some perspective, so you can begin to see what's really going on. Because if we're lost in thought, we're just chugging along, and we miss all of the little synchronicities and signs that are there. Yes. Kind of telling us all the time to awaken, like, this is the way, walk in it. Here you go. This is the Bible says there will be a voice behind you everywhere. It'll say, this is, whether you go to the left or the right, there's a voice saying, this is the way, walk in it. So, but we have to quiet our minds to hear that voice.
And a lot of times that voice is telling you not what the people in the matrix are doing or wanting you to do. And so
that's what creates the anxiety. Yeah.
Yes. For me, I mean, Brandy, for me, Parker, for me, I feel so much anxiety when I know what I'm supposed to do, because I'm tuned into that voice, but my whole world, my exterior world, is saying that's the wrong thing to do. Do what we do. Even when what they do is something like church, the matrix of religion. They've gotten it right by the matrix standpoint. And that's what I kind of had to awaken to, is after my psychedelic experience, coming out of it, realizing what I'd realized and saying, what do you mean I didn't get it right? I did all the things. I devoted myself to my religion and God, but I didn't do it in the esoteric, the mystical, the deeper way. I did it the way the world told me you do it. And I'm glad I woke up from that, but it's hard to wake people up from that, because they think they've got it right as long as it's okay by the Matrix's standpoint.
It's a polished exterior, and it seems good and honorable. And well, it's like the military complex, war. I mean, most people would say, yeah, I mean, war is evil because, I mean, the mass killing, we would all agree on that to some degree. But how many people really elevate, that military type state of mind, and it's one of those things where it's a shiny exterior and it seems honorable and noble and all of the things. But at the end of the day, it's another system that's just driving people in the ground.
It's very true. Put there for control.
Yeah.
For the very few higher ups.
Yeah. It's very lucrative business, war is. So, and the people fighting in the wars, and dying in the wars are not the people that, that are, they're not the ones that get any of the perks.
Yeah.
We've kind of talked about how to get out of the matrix a little bit.
What are the pitfalls maybe?
What are some pitfalls of when you...
I think there's a lot of pitfalls, but it shouldn't deter you from going through the process of becoming who you're made to be. The main pitfall, I would say, is people aren't going to like you as much at first. And if you're a Southern lady like Brandy and I are, you know that that's just not okay. And so
lost your way.
You've lost your way if you're not following the way. When I came out and started my whole TikTok thing, that was my first battle, and I knew it would be, but I had to do it anyway. And the influx of just hate mail I got on there from my people, quote, quote, from Christians.
Right.
Totally the opposite of love. But I knew where they were coming from because I was programmed the same way. But that's something I had to overcome with awakening is not everybody's going to agree with me. Most people won't. But I'll find my tribe. And as some people fall out of my life, or maybe they don't fall out of my life, but we no longer resonate on the same frequency, like we've been saying, way more high quality friendships come my way as I let go of the ones that don't resonate anymore. But that's been the pitfall for me is, oh gosh, people don't think that I'm all that in a bag of chips anymore. In my life, my family, that took a hit. My friends, that took a hit. But it's so worth it because living in authenticity and in love to me, is worth everything you lose. Because if you don't, you're in prison. You've imprisoned yourself to a system that you know you don't like it. But you just got to say, who cares what people think? Who cares what people think about me if it means I am living to my highest purpose and loving and just doing what I'm here to do.
Being your authentic self, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said it, that hit the nail on the head. Like, to live as your authentic self is probably the best way to escape the matrix.
Yeah. No matter what people think.
Not doing something because somebody told you to.
Yeah. You got to be okay with not being part of the crowd anymore.
Yeah.
But like I said, it brings in a new crowd that is much more highly aligned with who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I like to tell people is that it's not a loss, it's an alignment. But in the moment, it feels very much like a loss because things are a process here in this world of time and space. And so we don't lose people and gain people like instantaneously. So we don't see it in the moment. Oftentimes we just see all of this mass carnage, just like, okay, my life is falling apart. I don't have any friends anymore. And I jokingly say pretty often, God must not want me to have any friends because it's like just when I'm comfortable with my worldview and I'm like, okay, it's not so weird to me anymore. I've come to terms with my worldview, with the experience that I'm living, my lived reality. It's like something else crazy will happen. And I'm like, what even is this life that I'm living in? It's too much for some people, and I get it because it would have been too much for me at one time, but I didn't arrive where I am overnight or suddenly. It's been a progression of events, of experiences that have kind of shaped and molded me and pulled me along. And truly, I mean, I got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And that maybe we could share, as we wrap things up, kind of how did we begin to step out of this matrix? How did we begin to awaken out of it? And there again, I'm going to say it's a gradual thing. I won't say that I'm entirely awakened out of the matrix. And oftentimes it's almost like you wake up and you see it, and then you fall back asleep a little bit, and you're in it, and then you wake. It's like a push-pull kind of feeling.
Yeah. You have to live in it.
Yeah, but for me, it was just depression. And that's something that I said earlier. If you are stuffing down your true self, your authenticity, and you're conforming, whether it be in church, because like we said before, oftentimes the conformity is very shiny and good and, admirable, honorable. But if you are ignoring your true calling, your true essence, your authenticity, then you will feel anxiety and depression, because that's the way God designed things, because you're supposed to awaken. And so the further you push against your authentic self, the more anxiety will build until a breaking point, which is, even though it's like a tower moment where mass carnage, things are falling apart. It's in that moment though that you can be pulled into your true self, your authenticity. And that's where peace, abiding peace, really is. And so for me, it was depression, a season of depression that just wouldn't let me be. And and from there, it's like the rest is history. But it's been a gradual, since that moment. It's been a little over 10 years, maybe 11 years. So, in all that time, it still has been very tumultuous. This thing will happen and that thing will happen. And so I got to the end of the rope. I'd had enough of my own stuff, my own self. I was like, I've had enough of me.
Yes. And I've said this to you before, Brandy, but something that helped me a lot was the Jim Carrey awakening story that he shared, where he said, depression is you being sick of you. Like, depression is the true self needing deep rest from the character, deep rest. The true you, which is the one consciousness that all is so sick of playing the character that you and the world have built for it. And it just says, I'm done. And I had the same thing. Yes, the psychedelics did a large part of my awakening, but it wasn't just that. It started with chronic pain and awful depression. And I struggled with depression my whole life as well. It wasn't because I was sad. It was because I remember being a child and thinking, this place is not right. This isn't right. I'm not supposed to be here. Something's off. I can feel it. And I carried that with me my whole life until after that psychedelic experience, things started to come together, but I still hadn't totally stepped into living that authentic self. And I wrestled with the deepest depression of all my years for about 9 months. Like, couldn't get out of the bed a lot of the days, and realized I had a lot of work to do and a lot of accepting of myself and of reality to do to be able to be thriving and happy and stop living as my character. Living as my character made me so sick. Living the way people told me I should live to fit in here made me so sick.
Yeah, that's such a testimony too, because it makes everyone sick. Whether it's, you had sort of built up into a climactic, you couldn't take it anymore, and you had like an epiphany kind of moment. But for some people, it's just this ongoing chronic illness journey that they never seem to awaken out of. And that's how the Matrix is designed. It's in the way that if you plug into it and you immerse yourself 100%, and we do from early childhood, it's just by design. It's going to happen to everyone. And it's usually, a very good, like with kids who want to please their parents. It's like, they want to be good kids. They want to be seen as responsible and, accepted within their family unit. That's where it begins.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's about, when you go to school, then you have your friends, and, your circle gets a little wider. But the older we get, the bigger that circle gets, And so there's so many hoops to jump through. No longer is it just about fitting in with your family unit. Then you have to fit in with your peers at school and then in the work world. And it just keeps circling out, expanding out from there. And it becomes too much for people to bear.
It is. It's too much. That's exactly how I felt in those times. Parker, what like triggered yours? Because even though I'm your wife, I've never heard kind of what really set it off for you. Although I know you've kind of always been more non-Matrix minded.
Yeah. I think what you just said, and I guess what I said earlier, it's just like everybody's individual path of how you awaken, I didn't have any depression or any anything that will force me into it. It was just more of a gradual thing over time. It was probably from when I was 14 years old to just kind of seeing how everything is a system and understanding that there's systems. And then as I got older and was given the opportunity to research certain things and be a part of certain things, I got to see the power structure of the systems. And then from that, I got into the Mason stuff, and I got into what drives the collective is what's good for the very small minority of people that control almost everything you can think of. Like, what I like about y'all's story is it went from y'all's darkness was your depression and y'all's just such you didn't want to play this character anymore of what the world told you, and now you figured it out. And on my end, it's more I had to see like all this darkness to finally see the light of what this all is. And I think a lot of people are like that as well,
Yeah, I know you mentioned that a lot, the darkness that you mentioned to me. You're glad I didn't have to find out the dark things to awaken like you did, just the deep dives, the deep rabbit holes you spent years studying. I know that took a toll on you to where you had to finally go, oh my gosh, what is life? What is doing this? And he's been a great teacher for me because I'm all spirit. He's more like logic. And so he's helped me a lot because he does go down all the rabbit holes and has spent years doing that.
Yeah. Conspiracy theories, or the term conspiracy theory, was made up by the CIA in the 70s, late 70s or the 80s. So that should probably tell you something.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say every single conspiracy theory is right, but you should do your homework on
everything.
A lot of the stuff you hear about. You should do your homework on that. Everybody should do their homework, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what an
think
exciting
for yourself.
time. This, what did you call it? Disclosure. We're finding things out now as a collective and getting to lights being shown on these conspiracy theories that finally we all get to see. Okay. Pull back the curtain.
With all the tools of today that you have to research at the click of a button or at your fingertips, you don't have to go to a computer anymore. It's just all on your phone. With all of the stuff that's there to know this stuff, it's almost laziness to not look into it because it's all there. It is all there, and if you can step outside of the blinders and you can look around, you might find something that you weren't expecting to find. In a good way and a bad way, whatever way you're trying to find it, I should say.
Yeah. And I think also that people can be overwhelmed, though, a lot of times, and they don't know where to begin. And there are all these different rabbit holes that people can get lost in. And, it's not always healthy. I see some people who are really out in the weeds with conspiracy theories to the point where they are very dualistic. So they have not awakened out of the matrix. They're just in this rabbit hole within the matrix. They're still labeling and judging and dividing. And so that's what's cool about this podcast, Transcending the Rabbit Hole, because it's about coming out of those rabbit holes, taking these insights, seeking truth at all costs, is it true? But integrating it in a way that it brings us out of this matrix, that it liberates us from the matrix. And but like you were saying, the government, they coined the term conspiracy theory just to keep people so they could dismiss it. They're like, we'll do this so that we can dismiss these people as crazy lunatics and not have to take them seriously. And that is exactly what dualism is. That's what it does. It's like, set yourself up as separate and superior and dismisses, other people as inferior to you. Yeah. Crazy, woo-woo, whatever term, it's easy to dismiss people when you put a label on them.
It goes even deeper than that. They coined the term conspiracy theory, but they turned around and created so many off-the-wall conspiracies to make it seem so conspiracy,
Yeah. Trust no one. Do your own, do your own research. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all seen that meme of Candace Owens, and she's saying, if you are not a conspiracy theorist by now, you are not intelligent. You are not paying attention. I thought that was so funny because
that is
not trying to tell people they're not intelligent, of course, but
Truth has come out.
it's right in front of our face now that if you are
Yeah.
still not paying attention, that one's on you. You know, like it's time to wake up. It's time to take responsibility, I think, and
Yeah.
not just listen to the powers that be, because most don't have the collective's best interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just like fluoride, the news just put out an article 2 weeks ago, a month ago, that says children who drink tap water with fluoride in it have a lower IQ than ones that don't in, say, Europe or anywhere else around the world other than here in America. So that's a conspiracy theory that was proven right.
Yeah.
Chemtrails, all you really have to do is look up in the sky, at least maybe not now, but you could look
Yeah.
back a year ago and look up in the sky and they're drawing checkerboards in the sky. That's not a cloud, okay?
Yeah.
You could go back out an hour later and it's all hazy outside. There's articles about that of the Department of Defense. They have patents on all of that stuff you can look up. CIA has a patent on astral projecting. You see, this isn't something we're coming up with. This is all out there, proven facts. So
Yeah. A lot of
please
it is
look
just
up.
suppressed.
Yeah.
It's there. It's in plain sight, but it is hidden. It's suppressed. You know,
It
when I
is.
say hidden, it's suppressed. You can find it, but you have to be diligent. You have to be consciously looking for it to find it.
Yeah,
And
it's just not going to be there.
yeah, and to circle back to the meme you were talking about, I saw someone post one thing we all have in common now is that we're all, whether you're on the left or the right, one thing we have in common is that we are all conspiracy theorists now.
Yeah,
And I thought that
We
was
know what's
funny
up
because-
now.
Yeah, because all of these things are coming to light. And I don't encourage people to just get lost in rabbit holes of, you know, digging out information for information's sake, because that is not going to liberate you. Information in and of itself. Really, it is about kind of distilling that information or what comes to light for you in a way that brings you into your highest life path. And we are all on our own journeys. And so I think it's important that we listen to our intuition, go within. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, and pay attention to what is it that gives you life. What is, you know, listen to your intuition about these theories that you hear swirling in the ether, these news stories or whatever. Don't just take things at face value. Just try to put some distance between yourself and whatever it is that's coming up, and just with compassionate curiosity, look into it and be like, this is interesting, instead of being swept up in the drama.
And intuition is key 100% with this type of stuff. I mean, not to say like you're going to know everything like right when you see it, but intuition is a big part of all of this. I would say we are intuitive beings. That's a fact too.
Yeah. 100%.
I learned and had to tell my parents, you know, when I try to tell them, hey, this is going on in the world. And they say, well, when I Google it, there's nothing about it, or World Press News or whatever it is doesn't have anything about it. I say, they're not going to. You need to get, I guess right now your best bet is X, you know, Twitter, or maybe DuckDuckGo will give you something more than Google, but Google is not your friend for this stuff.
No.
Not your friend.
Google
They're
is
paid to hide
programming
it.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Google,
exactly.
Google
the
gives
thing.
you what it
That's-
wants you to know.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So you do.
And,
That's part of stepping out of the matrix is, you know, where are you getting your information? You know, and sometimes it's just really about taking a step back, like you were saying, just distance yourself from all of that media, even if you're not going down rabbit holes, because not everybody has all the time in the world to, you know, to go down in these, you know, look into these conspiracy theories and turn over every rock and look under, you know. And so if that's you, if you're out there and you're like, I don't have time to really, that's fine. Just distance yourself from the propaganda. That's enough to kind of give you some space to breathe and come up for air, because really you don't have to know all the things. Really,
Right.
it's just about coming home to your true self, and that true self is love. And so what expands you? What gives you life? What makes you a more loving person, more compassionate to yourself and others?
When I was really in the religious matrix, I thought being somebody of love meant converting people to my faith and making sure they go to heaven, because if I loved them, I wouldn't take a chance on them not knowing this stuff I'm told they need to do and know. And it wasn't until after my awakening I realized, holy moly, like that's not even love at all.
That's fear, which
That's
is the
fear.
antithesis of love. Yeah.
Love is saying, you're great. I love you. Let me serve and encourage you as you are. And if if you want to talk some Jesus stuff along the way, let's do it. But I'm not here to convert you to some religion.
No, it meets people right where they are. And so,
Yes.
yeah. And
that's
have
what
you
Jesus
ever,
did.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, not that you don't share your faith when it is relevant, like with a person who might be a connection close enough to you where you can have that conversation in a mutually respectable kind of way. But just hitting people over the head with the Bible, that doesn't benefit them. It's very repulsive. People don't like that. It repels people. But how do you feel on the inside when you do that? That's the thing, too. Like when you are trying to convert someone, when you believe, hey, I have the answers, I need to make this person make a decision or they're going to burn in hell. What energy is that? What comes up for you as you're doing that? And I guarantee it's not an expansive, loving energy. You probably feel constricted and maybe fearful or even some anger depending on that person's response. So it's definitely low vibration
It is.
behavior.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess we're coming to the hour mark here. Do you guys want to leave everyone with a thought as we close this episode?
Yeah, I do. I want to say that you don't have to know all this stuff about conspiracy theories. This is everybody's individual journey. Annelise has a different journey than me, than Brandy. Brandy has a different journey than Annelise and me. I have a different journey than Brandy and Annelise. And we all bring together different perspectives and different knowledge that we can all collaborate on. So knowing that you can be your own person, you can be on your own path, and to get out of the matrix, you just have to just take yourself out of the system and just try to get to know who you really are and act upon who you really are, whether that is being spiritual compared to being religious or not going to the bar scene because that's where your friends are, stuff like that. And the more you do that, the more you'll see, the more you'll understand gradually. It'll just come to you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, well said. Annelise, do you have any?
Let's see. I would just encourage people to know that you're not alone in this. This isn't just happening to you. This is a mass awakening going on all over the globe because, as foreign as it might sound to some people, humanity is ascending into the next stage of development and consciousness, and what I believe is a new earth coming. Some may use terms like the second coming, whatever you like to use or whatever your worldview is. I just mean humanity is ascending into a love, vibration, unity, and everything from what's happening with the sun, the solar flares, to what's happening in our country's politics and light that's being shown on darkness and awakenings that are happening to everybody. If an awakening can happen to me, it can happen to anybody, and it'll hit you and you won't be ready for it. But trust it and follow it. And I would say find some good friends who are doing this too, because it can be really lonely if you don't. And they might not be the friends you've had, but you can get on even a Facebook page that I started called Awakening Allies. Ask to join on there and you'll have 1,000 friends to talk to about this stuff. People who are trying to figure out what life even is. But don't do it alone, and know that you're not alone.
Yeah, and her page is great for anybody who wants a community, because she doesn't even really have to keep a tight rein on it. It just flows very naturally. Everybody's there for the same reasons. There's no craziness. Somebody's going to get hit with any adverse comments or anything like that.
A safe space. It's a
safe space.
That's the rule. If you join, you just have to make a promise. You're not going to be a turkey on there. You're not going to mess with people. You're not going to be rude. Because if you are, then somebody's going to tattle and I'm going to have to get you off. And I don't want to do that. So, but no, I'm playing, but kind of. We can post a link to it, though, I think. Because I think, that's just
we'll
a help, I
show
think,
notes.
just to know that you can go to a Facebook page and you can say, what the heck is happening? Why am I feeling this way? What is life? Can someone help me understand this? Whether it's about religion or just awakening in general. Just get a friend, get a buddy, and don't do it alone, because you're not alone. It's happening to a lot of people, but people are scared to say it's happening. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah.
And if you're a serious introvert who just doesn't like to go out and make friends, we'll be your friend here on this podcast.
That's right. We're your friends. Come
you
here. Come talk with us.
Yes. And see, that was me. That was my vantage point. I am an introvert. So it wasn't so much the community that was an issue for me in my awakening. but it is still very difficult. Well, I say it wasn't community in the bigger sense of the word, like, lots of friends, lots of community. But, it was hard, like, to talk at first to talk to my husband about what was happening to me, because I was like, oh my gosh, what is he going to think? And I mean, thanks be to God, he was great about it. And he's been very supportive. So we didn't have any conflict in that department, but some people might. Yeah. And it's it's just being afraid to come out of the closet. We just did an episode with Annelise on my other podcast, Spectral Symposium, and we named it "Coming Out of the Spiritual Closet."
I love it
because
it can be a little scary, especially with family.
Yeah, with family and close friends or whatever. But I will say, you're not going to lose people who really love you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if you do lose people, it's not really a loss. It's an alignment, I can promise you. And if you would just trust the process, be patient. God will send you the right people at the right time. And
Yes.
And I echo what Annelise was saying. Go to her page, Awakening Allies on Facebook. It's a wealth of knowledge. So many people having similar experiences, and people are just sharing their journeys and information, and you won't feel so alone.
What Annelise and Brandy are talking about, like with you might lose friends or family, or maybe relationships will seem different. It's kind of like this. Imagine FM radio, okay? Everybody's turned into 95.5. Well, now you're upgrading in your vibration, in your field, your vibration. So you're tuned into 98.7, 98.5. Well, you can't hear 95.5 anymore. 98.5 is where you're at. So, but you can hear everybody else on 98.5.
And they can't hear you down on 95 point whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where we're talking about, like, relationships will
fall.
will change. Yeah. And then you'll have different relationships on
That's right.
your new frequency.
Every end is a new beginning. That's the thing,
Right.
because every moment is a death and rebirth. That really is the cycle of life. And so as some things do fall away, other things come into alignment. And life is magic and tragic all at the same time.
Yes.
But so I would just say, don't despair. Do not despair, because all is guiding all, as my grandmother tells me, and it's going to be okay. I think it was it John Lennon that said everything's going to be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, then it's not the end.
That's right. I love that one.
Yeah. Words of wisdom from John
Absolutely.
Lennon. I love John Lennon.
And we are here for anyone listening. We're your people, and we want to walk with everybody through this, and let us know what you want to hear about. Let us know what you want discussed, questions that come up for you on your journey through all the rabbit holes. We're here to not just fall down rabbit holes, but transcend them.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. So reach out. We'll have our contact information in the show notes and email address. So if you have any thoughts on the episode, any recommendations, things you'd like to hear about, or you just want to conversate about something, feel free to reach out. We are here and we are accessible. And we thank you all for joining us for this episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. Peace.
Sleep, 'cause distraction is key. But as long as there is still a sun up in the sky, I can choose to live on the sunny side. It's somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. You can't ignore, Sheriff, call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not to lose my mind. I'm somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song, and the state of humankind had me humming along. Hello, common sense, I'm convinced we've lost our way. To the system, now there's power to reclaim. But as long as there's a heart beating in my chest, I will cling to hope that's true. I will cast out the rest.